toilet and ready to release smell on Earth. He answers only to the name
Potty mouth.
Potty mouth.
Potty mouth.
Potty mouth.
Potty mouth. Potty mouth. Potty mouth.
Potty mouth.
Potty Mouth. Evan Jacobs as Potty Mouth, Mike Hartsfield as Brett Baxter, Isaac Golub as Father Dingleberry, Blake Ford as Dr. Doodihauser, MD, Mike Hartsfield as Stink Eye, Evan Jacobs as Detective Dick Frisk, Jessica Ford as Nurse Nancy Nibbles, Mike Hartsfield as Detective Howie Wipes, and Palmer Scott as Plumber Scott.
No, don't touch it. Don't touch that plunger.
The founders of the crapsploitation genre have returned with their largest movement ever.
Did you say Dingleberry?
Terror, tyranny, toilets, turds, and every fart is real.
Brett Baxter is dead.
Death Toilet 5. Invasion of the Potty Snatchers. It's gonna wipe you out. And did I mention every fart is real?
This is goddamn ridiculous.
Hey, and we're live here at the station of decapitation without your head, or maybe the station of flatulation tonight.
That's renamed today.
Right. I like it. I should have thought it earlier. I could have made a banner. Mike Hartsfield, actor, as we've seen here, and filmmaker of the new movie Death Toilet 5, Invasion of the Potty Snatchers, which is a hell of a name.
It is great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. Right away when I saw the poster and everything, I was like, oh, this will be fun for the show. And by the way, Annabelle wanted to be here, but she's actually at a concert tonight, so she couldn't be on, but she wanted to be here.
No worries.
So maybe for part 6.
Yes, absolutely.
So for people not aware yet, can you give them an idea of Death Toilet 5, Invasion of the Potty
Sure. Well, we started, obviously, it's part 5, so there's been 4 previous. And my buddy and cohort in all of this, Evan Jacobs, directed the first 4. And he is a micro-budget genius as far as editing, directing, shooting, the entire thing. And he has a pretty tight schedule he keeps on. And he was like, hey, why don't you try to do the next Death Toilet movie as far as a director goes? So my wife and I really took it on and tried to expand a little bit more on the previous stories we've done, and they've usually been, hey, we got a weekend, let's shoot this movie. And they've all been very improv, and this is the first movie that had like basically bullet points to get us through the story. So
sounds very familiar.
Yeah, before it was like, hey, in this scene there's one thing to do, and then we would like we're driving somewhere, crack a few jokes, end of scene, and do the same thing. And so this one we tried to, if you watch the film, there's 2 specific parts in the movie where Isaac Golub, who plays Father Dingleberry, is in an interrogation. And we're kind of like drilling him for information on the first Death Toilet movies to bring people up to speed. And then there's a scene where I'm in a hospital room and I'm trying to get out the rest of that information. So it kind of hopefully brings people up to speed if they haven't seen the prior ones.
Yeah, I was going to ask, because I hadn't seen them, and I'm going to go back and watch them, the first 3 on Tubi. So if people out there, they haven't seen them before, can they jump right into part 5?
Oh, absolutely. I think all of them, there's always like a little telling and then enough of a story, I think, that gets you through. Like, hopefully people aren't expecting too much with Death Toilet, but I think we deliver laughs and some story, some comedy and intrigue, I hope.
We get a hello from Jamie Hill here, from Skinamarink. from Skinamarink to Death Toilet. Very cool. And Carl Solomon from the Greasy Strangler. We're going to name drop people, but they're here in chat. Are the turds real, like in Jackass Forever, or are they turds courtesy of the art department?
There is only there's actually 2 turds in the movie, and I'm going to do a little inside knowledge. There's one turd that is a big, like it's like a root or a beet. So it's just this enormous brown hunk of root. And then there's a second turd that is probably 8 Tootsie Rolls melted together.
The other one I thought was actually a great big sweet potato, but maybe it is a beet.
It's one of those. It's one of those. We actually saw it in the grocery store and went, okay, now we need to write a scene where we can use that thing.
Right.
And we were going to dip it in some chocolate syrup because it just looks big and brown and gross. And the studio we were at was like, you can't have liquids. You can't do anything with liquid, like blah, blah, blah. And I mean, we probably should have done it anyway. But, you know.
Yeah, it's very funny, honestly. So.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. And since he asked that, and we just saw the trailer, multiple times you say real fart. So so how do you go about getting them? I assume in my mind you're just sitting around with the microphone and various, orifices or
well, that's been the theme in all of the movies. And then, we talk about it, and this is when I say we, the original 3 in the series is Isaac Golub, who plays Father Dingleberry, who was in all of these movies, and Evan Jacobs, the same, plays a character or 2, directed, wrote, and we basically each wrote our parts because it's just dialogue we're thinking up. But the 3 of us all have iPhones, and the greatest thing about iPhone is the voice memo. So we just have a collection of all these farts. So we just had them, and then we download them, and they're in Final Cut, and we place them where they need to go. And we've always joked like, oh, what about using fake farts or anything? And it's like, no, we will never cheat the people.
I like it, yeah. And I found out because I called the number it's in the trailer, it's in the movie, the 616-666 fart. And at the end, not to spoil anyone who hasn't called it, you do ask to leave, a fart. And so are any of the ones left by people used in the movie?
No, because most of the ones we get are they're driving, or there's like some sound that like
right. You need a clean fart.
Yes, like record it on your phone. Maybe we could have it where they could text it to the number. Maybe that could clean it up.
Yeah, that would be a good perk if you ever do crowdfunding. Fart, your own fart used in the film, and
absolutely.
Yeah, maybe you could pop up, their name at the bottom or something.
Oh yeah, we were planning on in the credits it would be like
that would be great. Farts supplied by, and you have all the names.
Yeah, actually, all of the farts in the movie are the 3 of us, and then there's a buddy of mine who texted me some. And his fart is the very last fart you hear, and he laughs. So I had to keep that in there.
So you mentioned Evan Jacobs. So were you guys friends before doing this movie? Like, when did you start working together?
Yeah, we became friends in the early 90s through music. And it was just instant. I'm like, this guy's amazing. Where's he been all my life? And just through the years, and in the mid-90s, he asked me to play a postman in one of his movies. And I think it was Walking Between the Raindrops. And it was just the first thing I did, and there were no lines. And I was like, oh, that was a lot of fun. You hang out with your friends, you make movies, and, you get goofy. And so since that, it's just been, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? Do you want to do this? And, we've both gone and done different things, but always came back to work on things together. And I work on things with him every week. We have a meeting, and it's even if it's just to get food, we will talk about, like, he's coming over tomorrow, and we're talking about Death Toilet 6, and we're going to write some stuff out for that. So yeah, it's just been the greatest friendship ever.
When you did the first one, well, what was like the impetus for the first one? Like, where did the idea come from?
The first one was just one of those, you're walking and telling jokes, and it's like, oh, why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? And you're just trying to one up each other in a conversation. And Death Toilet came up, and it was like, oh, ha ha ha. And then we just kind of kept going back to it, like, oh, because when we make Death Toilet, and it was always like, well, why don't we? We're making things anyway, and we think we're funny guys, and maybe we can make something that's got comedy and horror in it, because those are two of our genres we love so much. Yeah. So it just kind of like, Evan made it actually happen, because Evan is the guy, if you start talking about ideas, he writes a note. He keeps notes and stuff. So it's like, if you want to actually do it, there's a note somewhere where he'll be like, hey, remember that Tuesday 5 years ago, you mentioned you wanted to do a driving scene where something explodes or something. He just has either a note about it or just a photographic memory about it. So it just kind of became one of the things, like, well, what's on the docket? What should we do? Well, we talked about this Death Toilet thing. It's just gone on from there.
Did it get a following right away? Because obviously there's 5, and you're working on 6 ones. So.
Well, luckily we exist in the world where things don't need a following. As long as you can shoot it and make it, if it gets a following or not, thankfully doesn't make or break if there'll be a next one, because we have 6 through 10 mapped out with a title and a paragraph. So unless something goes horribly wrong, we have these ideas for the next 4 we need to do.
When you put them out, I know the first 3 are on Tubi, but what do you primarily do? Do you put them? Do you try to get them on Tubi? Do you put them on video on demand?
Yeah, those are all. Yeah, Evan has his Anadenia Films on demand and makes DVDs. And we then go through SRS Cinema for distribution, and he's the one actually who made the deals for Tubi and for a couple others, I believe.
Have you ever done the screenings anywhere, like watch them with an audience?
Yeah, we've done for part 4. We did 2 screenings. We did Jerome, Arizona, and we did Salt Lake City, Utah, and both were completely different. And the one in Jerome was at the store called Pucifer, and it's just all sorts of odds and ends, books, wine making, wine tasting, screen printing, tattoo. I think they have a tattoo thing in there. There's barber shops. It's just like everything that's in your head. I think they went, hey, we like all this stuff or love it, and we're going to put it all in one room. So they began buying the DVDs from Evan years ago. And so we went there for a screening of part 4. And it's funny because it's a retail store on a main street. So people are just wandering in like, oh, what's going on? And then there was probably like 10 or 15 people that were sitting and watching the movie. And the funniest part about that screening was we told them, okay, we're going to come and we're going to be there whatever day. And we made up posters and stuff. And we physically brought the Death Toilet with us. So we drove it from California to Arizona. And then we walked in, and like everyone was kind of like attentive, like looking at us like, oh, hey, how's it going? We're the Death Toilet guys. And they were like, where is it? Because we told them we were bringing it. And they had velvet ropes like sanctioning off like for the VIP section. Yeah. And I walked down the street carrying this toilet, and I came in the store and I just dropped it on the ground. And they were it was like we brought a celebrity in. It was hilarious. They just took photos and were playing with plungers and just doing all this stuff. And it really was a great welcome, driving all the way out there and being like, if nobody shows up, this has still been a great event.
Yeah, I love it. Boxing Time TV wants to know about Coot Brown.
Boxing Time is Evan Jacobs.
Okay, very cool.
So Coot Brown is a nickname for our buddy Isaac Golub that passed away after we shot the movie. So he is in this newest one.
Yeah, well, that's unfortunate. I saw on Instagram he passed away, and you have a tribute to him.
Yeah, Yeah, it's been since April. And we actually had, if you watch the movie, I play one of Potty Mouth's henchmen, obviously in a different getup. And Isaac played another henchman. And we couldn't keep any of his stuff because we had recorded in a room that had this really bad echo. So it just wouldn't work. But he looked insanely ridiculous. It was really funny. But all of the audio had to be scrapped, so we didn't end up using any of it. But we had to reshoot the stuff with me as a henchman in a different location to get good audio.
Was that always the plan for you guys to play multiple roles, or is it more like a necessity?
It was a necessity, and the transfer or the passing of the torch in a way from Evan to me as far as the directing goes. Evan is very short list. It's not, hey, we want somebody to come in and say a few lines and then go out, and then there's going to be 3 other people. He's very minimal when it comes to people, you've got less people to flake out, you've got less people to do a bad job, or just to let you down in some way when that day is so incredibly nerve-wracking with like scheduling, making things happen, either a location and props and special effects, whatever it might be. Evan's always been minimal with that, which is streamline things, which helps us get things done and helps him get things done even on projects I don't work on. So the idea with me directing this one was, hey, I want to make it a little different. I want to use some locations. I want to do a few more things. And anytime I mentioned, hey, we're going to have somebody do this, Evan would be like, oh, just keep it in mind, and which was really good because we did limit the amount of people, or at least new people coming in that we were depending on. But then it was like, well, if we're going to have this fight scene, we need other people. And so it would be like, oh, well, what if it's basically these 3 people against these 3 people just in different gimmicks? So that was fun in a way because it was like what we needed to do to kind of survive and grow. And it's equally funny that it's us doing them. So when we did do the other characters, I think we really tried to be different characters, even with low budget, no budget, hey, I'm just going to change my clothes and put on a hat. Okay, great. You're a different person.
No, I think you do good. I don't know if I would have known you were a stink guy unless I knew. Let's see. It says Facebook user, but it's Mike Corey. Oh, I had much meds. This is already live. Hello. Well, hello. S&E Gaming. Ask him about Slee Daniel.
That is, again, Evan Jacobs with another nickname.
Oh, very good. Just like the movie, he plays multiple roles here.
Exactly. I need to get on here and I'll send a few messages up. Why is he so darn handsome? There we go.
So Slee Daniel.
Yeah, we have a text feed. If anyone found either of our phones, they just think we're absolutely crazy. But things like when we make up these names, if we have anything that's Death Toilet related, I write it down. Like, oh, this could morph into this other thing. So I have this list of goofy names. Some are toilet related, some are just goofy, that are like, okay, if we need another person, this is the person to play that part. So
this honestly sounds very familiar. You asked me before we went live about I was out in LA recently for Psycho Ape 2, and Addison and Addison Benek and Greg Delicio. Very similar. They just come up with ideas for Psycho Ape, and so there wasn't like a straight up script. It was just a bunch of ideas that they've written throughout.
Yeah. It was funny when you were playing the trailer, I was thinking of how hard it was to get quotes out of the trailer because, as it is improv, we are often talking, tail ends are going on to the front ends of things we're saying. So like when I say, no, whatever you do, don't touch that plunger, like I had to say that line completely on its own so that it could be used in the trailer. And like Palmer Scott's line of Brett Baxter is dead, like I had to like really go in and find, oh great, that sounds important and there's no sound over it or anyone else talking or anything. So that was one of the things editing this that was pretty interesting and at times difficult.
And weirdly, because another movie I was on the set of, they actually they were, the direction was to get people to kind of talk over each other, because that's more a natural way. People don't naturally speak like, hey, blah, 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 and then just wait for the next person to say it. There's a little bit of overlap. So in a way that feels more natural.
Yeah, there was, I think the only time that comes to mind for editing was there's a scene where Evan and I are both playing prison guards, and we take Father Dingleberry in to put him in his cell. And there's times when I'm talking, Evan's talking, Isaac's talking, and the other guy in jail is talking. And there were things there's less talking over each other, but there's more things I think we missed because someone was talking kind of off camera, and they said something good, but it wasn't something we couldn't turn up the volume so much to kind of find it and bring it out of the background.
So that's something you encourage, though, to if for everyone in the movie to have ideas and try to.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we had 2 actors that came in that, I mean, I'm calling them actors. They probably wouldn't call themselves actors, but Blake Ford and Jessica Ford, who play the doctor and the nurse in the in the main scenes where I'm in the hospital, and they both were barely informed of their parts because they were actually neighbors of mine, and they came over and they were like, okay, what are we doing? And I'm like, oh, I'm going to say something like this, and you guys are going to need to come back with something. And they're like, okay, well, what? And I'm like, well, I'm coming into the hospital. You're trying to figure out who I am. You're trying to diagnose me. You're trying to troubleshoot everything. And they were so good and really helped us just kickstart the scene with coming in on a gurney or busting through doors. We're in the hospital. I just had a terrible accident. They're assessing me. They're saying jokes like fast and serious. And I think they just did such a great job that, anytime I talk to them, they're like, oh, no. And I'm like, no, trust me, you performed above and beyond anything I was thinking was going to happen.
Carl Solomon again from the Greasy Strangler. Did Crafty consist of baked beans, cabbage, and beer? You got some good lines here. Carl. Yeah.
I don't think there's any farts actually recorded on set.
So, like no live farts. Well,
right. Yeah, no, we actually kind of overdid it. We had a lot of food, and we would be changing between outfits or sets and just would cram food in our faces because the place we actually filmed at it's a studio all day, but from 9:30 at night till I think it's 6:30 in the morning was the only time we could afford the rates, because during the day it's prime time, and then if you want to come at 9:30 you can get this highly discounted rate. So we're starting at 9:30, and that's after everyone's worked all day, and you're driving up to LA, and you're getting there right at 9:30, loading in, getting set up, getting people in makeup or costumes or whatever, and jumping between the scenes, because in one room we had the jail, the apartment that Potty Mouth's in, we had interrogation rooms, we had the entire hospital set, including like offices and stuff. So we were really running between rooms shooting, and that's actually how we wrote the outline. Is we found the studio because we knew we needed something with a hospital, because that's the opening of the movie. Is my character goes to the hospital, but when we researched, we found a hospital that had all these other things. So when we went to check it out, we're going to go here, because there's at one point Potty Mouth does a public address, and he's in this room that looks very presidential. So we're like, great, Potty Mouth's going to address the public, and there's going to be a press conference. And so we really just moved through all of those sets, pretty swiftly.
So you had so it was like a certain amount of time for all the sets, or did you have to get them individually? Or
No. It was one price and a block. It was a 3-hour minimum, and I think we got 5 or 6 hours. I want to say 5. and we just paid one clump for everything in there. So we had access to like all the doctor's office stuff. Oh, and there's a morgue. There's there were just every room we were able to use and utilize. But we ended up going back for pickup shots once, which was great because anything we didn't get the first time, we could listen to and watch and see, oh, we shot part of a door that you can tell on one side isn't painted, or we shot a few things. Like there's one point, something that ended up staying in there is there's a scene where I'm shooting that plunger gun that's got a laser coming out of it. And you could see there's like a floorboard with like duct tape in this apartment, and it's just like painted over, and it just looks at. We could have positioned the camera a little differently, but I mean, it's all good.
Yeah. So that's where they were very strict about no like liquids and stuff.
Yeah, right. With the place with like all this duct tape and stuff. So, and one of the things we had to sign going in there, for damage releases or whatever. They were like, oh, there can be no weapons whatsoever, no weapons. And I said, well, I've got this thing that's like a gun with a plunger on the end, and it's non-operable. It's literally a piece of wood that I just cut and painted black. And they're like, we're going to need to see it. So I got there, and the guy's like, okay, so there's some kind of a weapon here. And I pulled it out. And he was, oh, yeah, not a problem. So.
On Psycho Ape 2, we had a court scene, and they rented a court place. And they were very strict on all the rules. And one of the big things was there was only 10 people allowed, not even inside there, but on the premises.
Oh,
so,
wow.
We had to station people at Denny's and go back and forth between.
Wow.
It was
That's really strict.
Yeah. And so I was basically at Denny's the whole time. Which got very awkward because I was like, are they just going to kick me out of here eventually? I'm just drinking coffee. But
can I have another ice water, please?
Yeah, I really just drank like lots of black coffee. But they weren't busy, so I think it was good.
Oh, good.
Yeah. What do your other family and friends think of Death Toilet films?
Well, it's interesting because this is the one. Obviously, I was more involved in front of the camera and behind the camera. Mm-hmm. And if you watch the movie, there is a scene where there's a man on the street getting interviewed, and he talks about how he's driving around. He can't find a toilet. He drives up and down the boulevard. That's my father-in-law. Oh, and cool. So, we hang out with him every so often, and he's like, oh, what are you guys up to? And since we're such a mixed bag, it's like, oh, well, we're shooting the new Death Toilet movie. And he starts cracking up. And my wife goes, hey, do you want to be in it? We need somebody to do this thing. And he improv that the first time and did it, even though we were kind of checking the camera and like, okay, is the light okay and the sound okay? And he just nailed the first one. And we're just kind of like, okay, now he's the man that couldn't shit. And like, we're going to use him whenever we can use him. But I think, anytime you have something named Death Toilet that like gets any ounce of legitimacy in a real world, they're kind of like, like, you guys sold 100 DVDs or two? Like, what? Like, it's streaming somewhere? Like, what? Like, how does this happen? So, with that, we've hopefully done part 5 right, and we'll do the rest right. And so, yeah, our friends and family are pretty supportive overall.
That's good. So the experience of directing, is that something you'd want to do more of?
Yes. There's so much I think I learned as far as just knowing how to set up things a little different, because the fact that I edited the movie also, when we went back for the second time, I knew a lot more directly what I wanted and what we needed. There was one scene that we reshot that was Evan and my characters. We played two of the cops in the movie. And so there's a scene where we're like, okay, the moral of this scene we're going to do is we have to talk about Father Dingleberry, and we need to talk about how bad of a guy is, and we're going to, throw him in jail forever. And so we go in, and Evan's performance was top notch. Mine was mediocre, but our feet were hitting parts of the bar because there was a front of a bar, and you were kind of kicking it. We didn't really realize it. So when it came to the audio, there's this kicking all over the place that we really, and it was shot close to where we couldn't really overdub or do anything with it. So it's like, okay, we need to go back and do this scene, and we need to be aware of what we're doing and like any kind of movement we're making, because it could just ruin it. It could just ruin all the sound. There's times during the interrogation where we kick our chairs out in some kind of a rage, and it's the loudest thing you'll ever hear is the chair scraping across the ground. So from directing to editing, I think I'm just more aware of when we're setting things up, and if we walk through something, being like, okay, how is this going to affect that, and how's it going to end up in editing? Because we can add whatever we need, farts or sounds of a bar or something, but like to take out a chair dragging across the ground is impossible or difficult.
Yeah. Did you do the editing on the other 4?
No, those were all Evan. Yeah.
So I would assume that a lot of the movie really comes together in the editing.
Yes. And there were a lot of things that ended up playing out more than I was originally thinking, because really setting up improv scenes, I learned that a lot of people will perform more than you hoped, and I don't think we had anything that underperformed. And especially like we used Palmer Scott, who was from the Tim and Eric series and has some viral videos. We had him, and he's the only person that actually got a script. We did a screening of Death Toilet 4 in Salt Lake City, and we had found out that he lived in Salt Lake City. And it was like, oh, what if when we go out there, we can actually hire him and he could come work and we could do a scene. So we had a rough outline, and we went to Salt Lake City, filmed that scene, or had the screening and filmed the scene with like kind of a basic idea that, my character, Brad Baxter, is calling you and you're setting him up for, some evil doing. So he was like, great. And I wrote him out maybe a page and a half. And I said, this is loose. I said, the only things you have to do is setting me up to try to kill me. That's it. Like whatever you want to do. And when we got there, I was like, oh, did you have time to read the script? He's like, yeah, I kind of looked at it. And I kind of felt underprepared because I thought he needed that.
Right.
Like, oh my gosh, he's going to be the actor. We need to supply him with what he needs. And he blew it out of the water. Like, he was so good, and he said so many things that, like, when he says, like, yeah, and then there was a fireball. And I'm like, oh, now I got to go get a graphic of a fireball. And he was saying things that, like, dictated a lot of how the movie kind of swam around different things, where I was talking, like, the scene where I'm talking to him on the phone was months later. And I just had to watch what he said and then go, okay, great, I'm just countering these things. Yeah, and Blake and Jessica Ford, who again played the doctor and nurse, were above and beyond. And Jessica also plays the president at the end of the movie, and that was
the president of the world.
Yeah, she's the president of the world, and she did all of that. She did it one take, and then we were like, okay, how does the sound? Because it was windy, and we were trying to deal with, so like she just kept doing it and kept nailing it, and like those scenes are really indicative of what I was doing, and I don't know if it was subconscious, but scenes like that were giving other people a lot to do and giving me a minimal amount of things to do, because like the thing was like, oh, my character gets this award, he should be kind of in the background and he should be kind of secondary to this speech going on. And if you look at the potty mouth stink eye dynamic, Stink Eye is always like wondering what Potty Mouth's going to do, and then says 2 or 3 lines to encourage him to say 3 or 4 paragraphs. And so that's something I kind of realized, like, oh, I'm not really carrying as much weight as these other people are. And I think that's kind of my sort of MO, is to kind of step back and be more observant than being really the person leading the pack. So it's going to be interesting. For part 6, we are actually going to write a script, and hopefully it doesn't that isn't the end of this franchise looking the way it does, performing the way it does.
You planned out, yeah. How far along is that? Like, do you have a script started? Or?
6 is outlined, and we're going to have some more guests like Palmer Scott appearing. And I think we're just going to kind of sprinkle people in as far as doing different things and kind of adding a different dynamic to the scene. But I mean, I'm sure we're going to each play 3 or 4 more extra people. And, I think we're going to use some different locations because I think in theory, we kind of blow up Potty Mouth's hideout in the movie. So there's a plan for him to have a new place. So what that'll be, who knows? I don't think there's a plan for anybody to end up in jail or the hospital. So we're probably going to
need to go back there. Right.
Yeah. And the fact that this movie took a really long time to shoot and edit, and this came after telling Evan, hey, we need to do maybe 2 of these a year. And his schedule was 1 a year. And we were doing that like clockwork, like Evan, make a schedule, stick to a schedule. And we just had so many things with like the sound being weird or different things happening where like it would put us off for, a month or 2. And by the time we got done with shooting it all, it just really took so much longer than I'd anticipated. So in increasing this, size of the production, I think if we can do 1 a year, I'll be pretty excited about that.
Is Amityville Death Toilet like official canon of the Death Toilet films?
It is, but it's really more of a standalone. Isaac and Evan and I are all in it, but doing different characters. And that was a production through SRS. And I think it was to be really more of a standalone. And I think it was kind of more difficult to reintroduce these characters that have already been together and there's already been part of a story explained. But in true form, we play different characters, and basically the entire, setup and delivery is different.
Now, is part 6 going to be a Christmas movie? Because I, from what I saw on IMDb, the name
Part 6 is not the Christmas movie. The Christmas movie is going to be a standalone.
Okay, because I did notice it wasn't called Part 6. It was, Death Toilet 5, Silent but Deadly Night.
Yes. And see that in true Evan form, the Christmas movie is something I've been trying to do, but Part 5 has really been in the way. So it is now more streamlined, and I think we're gonna have a busy winter.
I'm a big fan of Christmas horror movies. Great ones, even the bad ones I find them all very enjoyable. So
awesome. Well,
it's a guilty pleasure of mine. Christmas horror movies.
Yeah,
maybe not even guilty. I just like them.
Just plain old pleasure.
Right.
Yeah, I think we definitely need to increase the body count from the toilet because I think in 5 we tried to tell a lot of story and do a lot of different things, and Potty Mouth is revealed as the person. Or the thing controlling the death toilet, but the body count was a little low. So I think we're gonna ramp things up in Part 6.
Did I hear James Balsamo on the radio at one point?
I don't know who that is.
All right, so probably not then. It sounded like my friend James Balsamo, who lives out in LA. So.
Oh, is it the radio announcer?
Yeah.
No, that was me also.
Oh, okay. Well, you sounded like James Balsamo there, and that's not an insult. So.
Oh no, that's something I think is going to keep reoccurring. Is anytime they turn on the radio, is going to be this weird sounding.
I really liked it. I think you really nailed that. That kind, what you were going for. I think you really nailed it.
Oh, awesome! Thank you.
So I also saw that you worked with XPW, which I was a big fan of. And people who watch my wrestling show know that I'm not just saying that because you're here. I had a lot of XPW guests on over the years.
Yeah, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, up until, I'm trying to think of the last show that I did. I think it was 2000. I think I was there 2000 to maybe the start of 2002. It wasn't incredibly long, but it was like, for the Olympic Auditorium shows and for the Pico Rivera Sports Arena shows, I think that may have been the only shows we produced when I was there. Yeah, an incredibly crazy time, and the free fall event with New Jack and
Oh wow, yeah,
yeah, and Vic
and
Grimes,
Vic
which
Grimes,
was
yeah.
yeah, which driving home from that, I was so tired. I was driving the ring and I missed my off ramp and I drove for like 20 minutes, like on the freeway. And I woke up and I was like completely, like I was so exhausted.
What was the feeling like backstage when, you know, Vic, if people don't know, Vic, New Jack claims he just threw him trying to actually end the man. Either way, he took a very crazy fall off a scaffold and bounced off the rope. Luckily, probably, because he
Yes,
might have fallen right onto the cement.
yes. It was, I mean, being there all day, I'll try to not go on too long, but the scaffolding was my brainchild, I guess. We were having meetings prior to that, and it was like, oh, the scaffolding, and then we're going to do this, and the scaffolding is going to be 40-foot scaffolding, and this scaffolding kept getting talked about, but there was never, hey, we need to find somebody or somebody call for a quote, or how do we really make this thing materialize? So I just spoke up and I'm like, hey, if I'm going to get this get handed this week of, let me at least get 3 weeks on it or a month on it. And so it was like, all right, scaffolding's yours. So I set out, you know, calling scaffolding places, making schematics, faxing them off and being like, hey, who could build this thing? Who could build this thing? And just getting bids of like, hey, we'll do it for $3,000 or we'll do it for $1,500 or whatever it was. And so when it came down to it, I found a company to do it. And they were to bring it inside the Olympic, build it, and then they were going to leave and come get it Monday morning. And so all of my communication with them was like, well, what is this thing going to be for? And I'm like, oh, we're going to have 2 cameramen up there. And they're going to be shooting down on the ring. And they're going to be shooting the crowd and doing like, I mean, who needs to build a scaffolding that's that enormous for cameramen to walk around? I mean, especially when there's a balcony. Like,
Right.
oh, just put the guy there, have him in the ring. And, you know, so that was all done. And then so I had to work between the guys building the scaffolding, the fire marshal, and the Olympic auditorium. So if any of those failed, it was off. And so the guy at the Olympics said, hey, if the fire marshal doesn't sign off on this, your show is not happening. And so when the guy was there building the scaffolding, I said, hey, you're going to need to hang around because if we don't get this thing signed off, you're going to have to tear it down. And so he was like, okay. So he sat, you know, in the wings, and the fire marshal came up and he looked at it and he said, oh, I remember, you know, the shows at the Forum and, you know, the sports arena. And so he was immediately kind of vibing with, you know, the event itself and like signed a couple papers and away he went. And the guy who was managing the Olympic goes, I don't know how you did it, but have a great show. And I gave the high sign to the scaffolding guy, and they took off. And so once everyone was gone, Jack and Vic got up there and started taking all the safety stuff off it because it had 2 railings so that cameramen wouldn't fall off up there. So they pulled those off and figured out a few things. And the thing is we'd gotten all the tables because they were supposed to crash into this big pile of folding tables. Is when Jack
for people don't know, I think that's what happened in the ECW one with Tommy Dreamer and Brian Lee. Like when he did the choke slam, he went through a stack of tables.
Yeah, and the whole thing was they were so high up that it was crucial that this thing happened for a guy who's 375 pounds. And so he was under control of himself, and Jack was helping him more than I think he realized. So when he went off the scaffolding, he overshot and clipped the end of the 2 tables at the end. And like you were saying, he rotated to where the top rope hit the back of his legs at his calves. So if he had hit at his butt, he would have slid out onto the concrete. So literally hitting the back of his legs made him do kind of a backflip back into the ring and save him.
Yeah.
And so it was insane. It was literally like as close as you can get without really having a catastrophe.
Yeah, yeah. And like I said, New Jack later on said he the thing about New Jack, I had New Jack on my podcast many times, and I talked to him off air lots of times, and he was on a album that I produced, a rap album, and you can never know what he was saying, if it was genuine or if he was in character. So who knows what he was. I think, like we said, he kind of helped him more than he thought. I don't think it was intentional.
Right. And I think he knew to keep the story interesting, and maybe there'd be
right.
line.
And it kept it alive forever. I mean, people still talk about it.
I never heard him say, oops. I
Right.
like there was no, hey man, sorry. It was always like either unsaid or it was said with storyline, always of, and the thing is our protocol for the night was no matter what happens, we've got an ambulance, and the immediate response is medical to check out Vic and to get the building clear. And that was the two things. And it worked out so well that I remember at one point medical was there and the side doors on the Olympic opened and it was just like the red lights flashing, which really made it look like, oh my gosh, this was an enormous event. And it was the most tickets we sold to any show I was around for.
Yeah, it was and people who never watch XP, I liked it. It's definitely not for everybody, but I enjoyed. I haven't watched the new XPW, but at the time I liked the 90s and early 2000 XPW.
Yeah, if you look up on YouTube, if you look up New Jack, Vic Grimes, Free Fall, XPW, you'll see it from a bunch of names.
Nice to be until I was trading all the tapes back in those days.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, Isaac Golub, our father Dingleberry, was operating the spotlight that.
Oh, really? That's an awesome connection.
That's how far we go back.
Yeah, I didn't know. That's very cool.
Yeah.
So how can people see Death Toilet 5: Invasion of the Potty Snatchers?
Death Toilet 5 right now is on DVD. We have them at deathtoilet.com. It will be streaming soon in a couple different spots, but right now it's DVDs. And we just got them and we just started shipping them. We put the link up on the website without a real announcement, and we sold 3 the first day. So that's
cool.
I guess a good sign.
I'll put the link up on our website and on here too.
Awesome. And then we're doing 2 events coming up real quick. Next weekend, we're at CreepyCon in Ontario at the Ontario Convention Center, along with 50 bazillion people. And it looks like such an enormous event. But we're going to have a table where you can meet me as Brett Baxter, and Evan's going to be dressed up as Potty Mouth in full gimmick. And then the second to last weekend in October, we're in Arizona for the Atomic Monster weekend, which is equally cool and looks like totally different people. So it's going to be, and those are 2 places you can get. We've got DVDs and T-shirts and Potty Mouth.
I need to get a T-shirt. I'll wear it here on the show.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, for sure. And so we're just doing a bunch of fun stuff. And, I do the screen printing, so we could do 6 shirts of something. And
oh, nice.
Yeah. So it's a very self-produced DIY.
Tidbit here from S&E. He says DT5 was originally called Back to Stool.
That was true. I was going to go back to school, but go to law school and try to find a way to sue the toilet, and then the toilet would then be incarcerated. So that storyline fell apart a little bit, but we did have access to a school, so that could still happen.
Is that how many you're gonna do until you run out of funny phrases to use for the subtitle?
It's literally gonna be, once we run out of funny, like obviously parody titles, but there's also a list of titles that are not toilet parody, but other, like not even other but like other movie parody. But there's like, I'm a huge fan of the movie Jesse James Meets Frankenstein's Daughter. So we're like, oh, well, we could do Death Toilet Meets anything that would be goofy.
I like this, yeah.
There's those titles as well, but like we're kind of focused on the more parody titles right now.
All right. Well, if anybody's out there too, if I was thinking Death Toilet, verse, maybe you can combine universes with someone.
Well, we do have. It's funny, anytime we do anything, and this is, of course, in a world where micro budget is everything, and nobody's going to tell us not to because we can shoot it on our phones or whatever. And the entire Death Toilet 5 was shot on iPhones. So it was incredibly portable and great to do. But we have these two detectives that are in the movie. That's Evan and I doing these detectives that are completely inept, and we're like, oh, those two cops should go have a similar type show that they go off and do their thing, and they're just bumbling and whatever. So that may materialize as well.
Very cool. And what kind of is there specials on the DVD?
No, the DVD is just the full movie. There's so much extra that I'll probably just stick it on YouTube as like bloopers and
That's
things.
fun though. Yeah, and I think that's a good advertisement. People check that out and like, oh, I'm gonna go, watch this on Tubi, or I go buy the DVD.
Right. Yeah.
That's very. Oh, where is your YouTube for people? They can go check out stuff that you got.
It's the Anadenia Films YouTube is where our trailer sits, and and that's pretty much it. We basically have the rest of stuff we're kind of producing from time to time is on Instagram or TikTok, and TikTok is going to get more content coming up, especially with the events and things, and us just making goofy stuff in character.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I need to use more TikTok. I don't have a lot of followers, but a lot of the stuff gets a lot of hits, I think.
Yeah, I'm constantly screenshotting. Oh, that guy did that. My character should go do something else that's similar but different. So, but yeah, both of those social media platforms for us are Death Toilet Movie, where you can find our silliness.
Annabelle says, I hope the show's going great. She's at the concert now. I'm not sure who she's going to see, but she missed doing the show. She did want to be here. So Death Toilet 5, Invasion of the Potty Snatchers, which is a great name, I have to say.
Thank you.
Yeah. This has been very fun, and I look forward to seeing more of your stuff.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. So go buy the DVD. And at it, physical media, it's not dead. People like it and people collect it. Especially, I think it does really well for micro budget movies.
It's been good for us. It's really been a good way to get stuff out there. I mean, streaming is hard to really gauge, but looking at the DVDs we've made, and especially the new one, the order we got, they're already half gone, promos and friends and to the cast and crew and stuff. So. But yeah, it's exciting to still have physical media.
Yeah. And so you, anything else you're working on besides the future of Part 6 and maybe the Christmas version?
Gosh, those two things are it. That's my main focus right now.
Well, I think that's a lot to focus.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna play a song from our music of the month, Poltergeist OD. Nice. It is CarousHell. It's gonna drop tomorrow, but we have the sneak preview tonight, so you can hear it here first. And thank you again, Mike, for joining us.
Awesome, thank you
for joining me. I guess. Yeah.
See ya.
See ya.
Here to be happy, what a waste of space. Made a great escape, need a change of pace. From the street to the beat, I'm the ace the bass, I rearrange your face. Now giddy up, see me tear your whole city up. I'm pure evil, I hurt people. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker spilling guts. But I'm trying to do better, don't be ungrateful. Wasn't that I rock my son's cradle? Trying to make it up, but I'm unable. No horseplay, I'm unstable. War-born soldier, they got me gunning. It's a plot twist I did not see coming. Please forgive me on a ride to hell. Now allow me to direct you like Steve Rudzinski. Now before you get the torches out, I'm the object you were warned about. Yeah, coming straight from the horse's mouth. I rein him in, but I pour one out. Get no credit, need more flowers. Keep myself in check, need more doubt. Been driving around for like 4 hours, and yes, I got the horsepower.
This carousel keeps on moving faster, yeah. Got a family now, don't forget the human factor. Off the record, I'm just trying to get my music mastered. Every day a new disaster, I'm the Duke of Hazzard.
Round like a Ferris wheel, life just like a fairy tale. Don't talk to me about pain, I know it very well. No spare detail, the spell, got my share to tell. Can't bear to kill, still keep spinning in this carousel. Round like a Ferris wheel, life just like a fairy tale. Don't talk to me about pain, I know it very well. No spare detail, the spell, got my share to tell. Can't bear to kill, still keep spinning in this carousel.
How can I stay in one place with all these moving parts? Yeah, it's like I never left that amusement park. Yeah, now it's all directions, that's off the record. Split in seconds, got kicks like tech. Keep on checking them music charts. Pull a rabbit out, that's a new trick for an old dog. Go hard, that's no problem. Summon power from the old gods, so raw. And there's just no limitation. Hit the bass and I rip the stage when I get in place. And I'm here to save it, just recreation. Confirmation of initiation, there's dedication. Representation, hard to build, that's just the case when you're part of bills, it's sick creation.
Oh bloody hell, what a funny tale. Here comes Duke with his bloody tail, hopping down the bunny trail.
Crash a party, yeah, that's just a symbol. So many hits they thought I dropped the whole album, but it's just a shingle. Life or death, they could all have it their way.
Let's just chalk it down to one bad hair day.
Don't let me catch you in the wrong uniform. Looks like you got the wrong unicorn. Fuck you like we shooting porn. It's my redemption now, can't forget what I do it for.
So going through the same bullshit I've been through before. This carousel keeps on moving faster, yeah. Got a family now, don't forget the human factor. Off the record, I'm just trying to get my music mastered. Every day a new disaster, I'm the Duke of Hazzard.
Round like a Ferris wheel, life just like a fairy tale. Don't talk to me about pain, I know it very well. No spare detail, the spell, got my share to tell. Can't bear to kill, still keep spinning in this carousel. Round like a Ferris wheel, life just like a fairy tale. Don't talk to me about pain, I know it very well. No spare detail, the spell, got my share to tell. Can't bear to kill, still keep spinning in this carousel. Round like a Ferris wheel, life just like a fairy tale. Don't talk to me about pain, I know it very well. No spare detail, the spell, got my share to tell. Can't bear to kill, still keep spinning in this carousel.
Boom! That was sweet. Thank you, Poltergeist OD, for giving us the early premiere of his music video for CarousHell. I believe it's CarousHell 3 that is for. Very cool. And that will drop tomorrow everywhere, or depending when you're listening to this, Friday. So you may be listening to it right now, and it is out there. So do... without your head a favor, do Poltergeist a favor, go and subscribe to his YouTube and follow him on the social media, and always do that for our music of the month. He may be joining us live next week. Next week, we're going to have Gary Sherman on the show, which is very exciting. We're talking about the 50th anniversary. Last year was the 50th anniversary of, Deathline, and the 40th anniversary of Vice Squad. So it's going to be a great interview. I've been trying to set this up for since last year, actually. Also director of Poltergeist 3. So it's exciting. Poltergeist OD will be music of the month for the Poltergeist 3 director, Gary Sherman. So we may have Gary Sherman. Well, we will have Gary Sherman on, and then maybe Poltergeist OD later on in the show. So that'll be fun. So last year, the Winnie the Pooh horror movie came out. Some people are up in arms. I like the idea. Was the movie great? No. I think it was a fun idea, not the greatest in execution, and not for what a lot of people said about it. I actually thought the gore and stuff looked good, but not that I expect like the Godfather script for Winnie the Pooh horror movie, but um they really like Winnie Pooh's driving a car and using guns. And you have the chance to make a Winnie the Pooh horror movie, and he's a big bear. Just make him a big vicious bear rips people apart, and I'd be happy. So, but the next one's coming out, and now they actually have the rights to Tigger as well. So Tigger will be in this because he's public domain. And so we're starting to get some more movies similar to this. I know there's going to be some people call them Disney, but the thing is, those stories weren't originated by Disney. They popularized them to the modern audience, but they're old stories from hundreds of years ago. So there's not, I don't really see a difference in someone today using those stories and the same thing that Disney did. Now they're using them in a different way. They're making, horror movies, so maybe you can argue that, but I'm fine with it. I'm an adult and I like horror films, so I'm good with it. So we were there. I know they're going to do like a Bambi and stuff like that later on, but then other people started thinking a little bit out of the box. So we're starting to get some other like fairy tale horror movies. So we've got Three Blind Mice coming out. We have Mary Had a Little Lamb coming out. And we have Gale, Stay Away from Oz, which is a horror film inspired by Dorothy Gale from the Wizard of Oz films. That's interesting. And I'll actually be doing an interview with the filmmakers tomorrow about that movie. I'm going to watch that after the show. So that's going to be exciting. Also, big thanks, obviously, to Mike Hartsfield for coming on the show. That was really fun. I'm out of focus. Death Toilet 5, it's right here. Death Toilet 5, Invasion of the Potty Snatchers. Very fun movie, fun interview. And I hate to say I've not seen the previous ones, and I still liked it. But I'm going to go back and watch them. And I also recommend calling 616-666-FART. I called it up thinking, I wonder, does this number actually work? And it does. So you hear a fun little phone message, and then you can leave a fart. I'm going to try to get a fart into part 6. That is now my goal. I was going to say I'm going to try to get in it, get a cameo, but I want to be annoying and say, hey guys, get me in this movie. But maybe I can get my own fart in the film. Now, this is going to be more information than you want. But so years ago, a lot of people know my colon perforated and I had emergency surgery to save my life, which resulted in 14 inches of my colon being removed, and I had a colostomy bag. I did get reversal surgery, so I was reconnected. When that happened, the reconnection gave me the bowels of a young man, is what one of the nurses said. So what does that result in? Results in never really having issues one way or the other, never not being able to, or never going too often. Like you can't control it. Very regular is what I'm saying. But a lot of gas. And it's not something I always talk about because I'm sure no one wants to know this, but there you go. So now I found my calling. I'm going to get in Death Toilet 6. Fart in a jar. Exactly. Hello, Neil Jones. Thanks for mentioning Strange Nocturnal is a good man here. He did our theme song. Not the current one, but the one before that. But you can still check that out on older episodes. He's a good dude. Fart in a Jar. That was from Pepe Petit. Lee and Margaret Podernak says hello. Something I've been thinking about. We might start taking video calls into the show after the guest, if people are into that. And if so, let me know. Then we'll start sharing the link. Probably not tonight, but when Annabelle's back and maybe when Troy's back, we'll have a little segment where you guys can video into the show and talk about whatever you want. Ask a question, talk about a movie you just saw, whatever. Have a little fun with us. That might be a fun addition to the show. So Severed Limbs 14 is coming up, and we've got a lot of people who sent stuff in, but we can definitely have some more. So if you make independent films and of any level, and these short films, so under 20 minutes, if you're a veteran filmmaker or just starting out or never made anything and you want to make something, this is your time, because we'll accept stuff from all different levels as long as they're creative and they're fun and not like 45 minutes long or something. So under 20 minutes, just because to try to get as many stuff in as possible without it being like a 12-hour event. It's best if everything, honestly, the shorter is the better. I'm not saying 2 seconds, but under 20 minutes max. Honestly, I think a 10-minute or under short is the best, but sometimes you need a little bit longer to tell your story you're doing. Anyway, and also trailers, you can send them in. We're on Film Freeway, and Severed Limbs, I'll be announcing very soon the first films that have been accepted. So that'll be very fun. Shout out to our video reviewers, Diablo Joe, who does the audio reviews, and they're amazing, and Todd Yeager, who does the Todd Sampler, equally amazing. Very different styles, and I enjoy both of them a lot. So you subscribe here on YouTube or on Spotify, and you can find all those episodes. So subscribe here, and then go around and check out. There's more than just these live shows. There's lots of older interviews. There's Dinner and a Movie with me and Annabelle. There's stuff from conventions and festivals, and of course, Diablo Joe and the Todd Sampler. So go and check those out. Give them a thumbs up, and leave some comments. That's always fun. And don't forget to hit the like button, folks. Hit the like button and send this out. Share it with your friends. If you'd like to help cover the cost here, it is expensive to keep the show running. It's a free archive since 2006. You can PayPal without your head at gmail.com or Venmo Headyverse, HEADYVRESE. And I will send you out some stickers in thank you. Eddie Izzard is going to be in Dr. Jekyll and Mrs. Hyde, I believe is the name of it. Or it might just be Dr. Jekyll. I think it's Dr. Jekyll. But I'm very interested in this. There's been a while since we've had a good Dr. Jekyll film. We've had lots of Dracula movies and Frankenstein movies. There's other cool characters from, the same era. And that's from Hammer Film. So that's exciting. Eddie Rocks says, Strange Nocturnal. I agree. Eddie does rock. He also wants to know the deadline. I believe it's early October for the deadline, but we'll be doing another one probably in January. So if for some reason you don't get it in this one, you can get it in the next one. I try to do them quarterly for every season. So this will be the fall one, and then we'll have one in the winter, probably in January or late December. That's a Severed Limbs Film Festival. Deathgasm 2 is coming. I'm really a big fan of the first one, so I'm excited to see a second one. Pet Sematary Bloodlines is streaming October 6th on Paramount Plus. I'm not sure if this is someone's calling me. I don't know if this is a series or a one film. I probably should have looked this up before, but I saw someone had posted it on Facebook right before we went live. Strange also adds Hammer need to make them like they used to. I agree. Hammer Films, great stuff. And that's exciting, Hammer Films from the past making movies again. I think they've been making movies for a little while, but a lot of them kind of fly under the radar. But this one is getting a lot of publicity because of Eddie Izzard, a great stand-up comic and a good actor in his own right. Been a lot of stuff. So check out the RoboDoc review by Diablo Joe. Let's see here. Pet Sematary Bloodlines, based on the novel Pet Sematary, streaming on October 6th. I don't know if it's original movie. It's a movie. I don't know. The last movie I was not a fan of. I thought everything about it was worse than the original film. So I didn't really understand the point. I thought the ending really sucked. So hopefully this is not anything like that. The weird thing to me about doing more Pet Cemetery movies is I think this one, actually, I read about this. This one is a prequel. So it's about the old guy when he's a kid. So we'll see. The original movie, to me, it's weird because I see a lot of hate for it now, but I always felt it was, at the time, one of, if not the best, Stephen King horror adaptations. It's very close to the book. There's stuff you have to cut out because if you make any of his novels into a film, it's going to be like 8 or 12 hours long to include everything. But I thought they really captured the feel of the book, the feel that everyone's cursed. There's a doom about the film, and I always thought it was a great movie. The cast really well, some great performances. Fred Gwynn's amazing. So I don't really understand how, because a lot of stuff that people didn't like when I was a kid, now they love, like Maximum Overdrive. But something that I always thought like people were really big on, Pet Sematary, I see a lot of hate for. It's very odd. Eddie was great in Hannibal. Yeah, good point, Strange. Very good. Hannibal is when people bring up a show I wish would come back, I wish we would have get another season of Hannibal. I know whenever I see interviews, everyone involved, even Mads, would be up for it. I assume it's a very expensive show to make, but I would have thought by now, maybe Netflix or one of these streamers would have picked it up by now. Look at this, a lot of gray hair here on the bottom of my beard. But no, nothing has picked it up yet. And I think as the time goes by, it's less likely, but you never know. We get shows coming back 20 years after they were off the air, so who knows? Maybe we'll see old Hannibal. That'd be interesting. You have to explain the ending, because Hannibal and the other dude die, apparently. But, I mean, you could say, like, they lived, I guess. I don't know. They faked death in that before. Or maybe it was a dream, or who knows. But I would like to see, we never did get to see, they were leading up to Silence of the Lambs, right? So we never get to see Silence of the Lambs in the Hannibal TV universe, unfortunately. So next week, Gary Sherman, done by PayPal. Well, thank you. Who is? I need to find who this is. And if you send something, make sure you send me your address, and I'll send you out some stickers. That was Diane Zuniga. Well, thank you, Diane. I really appreciate that. We keep the show free for everyone, and all the archives are up since 2006. There's a lot of stuff, and to stream the show is a lot of cost, so I appreciate any help. All the help will go into keeping the show going. So thank you. I appreciate that. All right. So we're going to be, it's going to be a shorter show tonight because Annabelle's at Peter Gabriel. I just found out. That's pretty exciting. And Troy cannot be here tonight. He's working a new schedule, but soon we'll have everyone back together here. But Annabelle will be on next week, and next week, Gary Sherman. That'll be very cool, and possibly Poltergeist OD. So in the meantime, I just produced Psycho Ape 2, and you could still actually help on the crowdfunding of that if we still need to do a lot of posts on that. Check out Death Toilet 5, The Invasion of the Potty Snatchers. You can get the DVD, which is very fun. Go and join the group, facebook.com/group/withoutyourheadhorror, and you can join in with us throughout the week. Please subscribe on YouTube. Also hit that little bell icon. You'll get notifications when we go live. Leave some comments on YouTube, and also share them out with your friends. Big thanks to Poltergeist OD for Music of the Month here. We like to have cool music on the show. Speaking of cool music, Strange Nocturnal, best show there is on horror and behind the scenes and upcoming films. Well, thank you, Strange. You're a good man. I did see The Nun 2. I was not really a big fan. I did think it was better than the first Nun. I really found the first Nun very dull. The second Nun 2, basically just a bunch of jump scares. I'm not anti-jump scare like some people, but much like cool effects, you know, a movie can't just be gore and no story. Gore enhances a film, jump scares enhances a horror movie, and if your movie's nothing but jump scares, it's just not that good. I think that what it comes down to is the Nun character looks creepy, and there's really nothing else to these movies. Is like the Nun pops up every once in a while and looks creepy, and that's really it. But if these movies are, I'm not really into any of the Conjuring universe, but if you're into them, I hope you guys enjoyed it. This weekend, unfortunately, I don't think it's playing near me, but Satanic Hispanics, and a lot of cool people are involved. A lot of former guests here, Gigi Guerrero, one of the directors, Mike Mendez. So check that out. It's an anthology by Latin filmmakers. So check that out. It looks very fun and has a theatrical release. So see if it's playing in your area. And I think in a few weeks, the new Exorcist is coming out. So a lot of cool stuff coming out, or potentially cool stuff coming out anyway. All right. So go and subscribe. Send in a film, and if you don't have a film to send in, share the Film Freeway link and let your filmmaker friends know that they can become part of Severed Limbs 14 coming up in October. Very exciting. All right, folks, I'm heading out, and we will be back next week, and maybe some interviews will pop up here, so stay subscribed, because you never know what'll pop up here on Without Your Head. Yeah.
I'm the boogeyman, I'm a killer clown. Walk a green mile in my clothes, you'll see I'm a red balloon in the road. I'm he who walks behind the rose. I fight fires with a typewriter, more suspension than a tight wire. Leave it up to me, you'll need to climb higher, cause I'm over your head, night flyer. Run that mouth like a Langolier, been this way since like 15. Run game like a racketeer, just drives you mad, Christine. Started breaking glass, I started breaking battle. Plus it didn't help that my dark half was stark raving mad. I'm Cujo with a heavy tide, I'm a tall tale from the dark side. I'll never change, I'm Pennywise, and the reason being for the reasoning. Evil in the grand scheme of things, conquers all like medieval kings. You'll get what you deserve, evil things. Got no time to relax, my overdrive set to max. Stop you dead in your tracks, coming at you like Jack Torrance with an X. And I got this dedication to devastation, dragged to the deepest desolation, disappeared to the abyss without an explanation. What's that? I detect desperation. Kid, you better get home before you end up in those headstones. Sometimes I feel like Chris, like I'm just walking in the dead zone. Roll up with the Mary Jane, singing Bloody Mary's name, dripping like I'm Carrie, man. Bitch, welcome to Dairy, man. Used to be the old stomping grounds, we don't walk around, you better jot it down. I'll make it thin until your skin makes a popping sound. I'll be dropping bars like you be dropping pounds. Sometimes they come back a week after, so I take enough meds to treat cancer. Right man with the wrong tools, lawnmower man with a weed whacker. Stay killing in the routine manner. Last of my kind like Mr. Gray with a silver bullet. I took my shot like a screen capture, dream catcher. Just keep telling yourself that this is all a dream. Keep telling yourself that it's nothing to dwell in, it's selling itself. I'ma make it my ringtone, hell in a cell. Live long enough to leave a legacy that coincidentally might be in limbo. If I let myself get the best of me, y'all won't ever see in my secret window. I'm something of an ambitious man, I doubt that you give a damn. But my friend the Misery, she says she's my biggest fan. Real shocker, real sweet talker. Got myself in some deep water, got you sick fucks mixed up like, please doctor, I'm a sleepwalker. Yo, word to all my predecessors, what defines a tremendous effort? Poltergeist, I've been dead forever, I guess sometimes dead is better. Girl, you look unwell, here's the key to my room, number 1408 in the Overlook Hotel. Just stay there for the day, by the way, I hope you fare the same. Don't bother screaming for help, I'm afraid my hands are tied. Gerald's game, I drop in like an atomic bomber with a half-cut bottle of Johnny Walker. Coming up from the underground just to get some air. Time Tommy Knocker. I've been working the graveyard, been up all night through the dark hours. Had to take a stand up, Randall, had to flag him down from a dark tower. Out of my mind, got time to take. Stand by me, stay wide awake as I make it rain metal in a homicidal rage. And I watch him ride the bullets like a tidal wave. Yeah, it takes a lot if the patient's not in a state of shock from a fatal shot in a painful spot. You're not gonna make it like Salem's Lot, a vacation spot. Cause it's not even the incentive to shit for real, or probably rent it too. Some of y'all already knew I party like it's 1922. Got death for all my enemies, redemption for the penitentiary. Black clouds forming next to me, it'll be the storm of the century. I'm up next, I'm the running man. I am death, son of Sam. Leave you nothing but a bag of bones under your dome and shut it then.
I'm a kid.